Hello and welcome to Psych 280. This is Experimental Methods. My name is Melissa Ferguson and I will be your professor for this semester. So again, we're here in Psych 280. Just to let you know, the easiest way to get a hold of me, obviously because it's an online class, will be email. I respond to emails pretty quickly, so please make sure though that you're putting the course name and the CRN in the subject line if you're not messaging me directly from Canvas. That way I know, if you're asking a question about a class, where to go to answer that question. My office is in the Lit Lang Social Science building, so one of the newer buildings on campus. I'm on the 3rd floor. I will be on campus Mondays and Wednesdays. Feel free, even though this is an online class, to stop by and meet me and visit me in my class in my office. I will have office hours, so right now they're tentatively set for Mondays and Wednesdays, 2:30 to 3:30. I will update Canvas as needed, and then I'll have online Zoom office hours from 10 to 11 on Tuesdays and 12 to 1 on Thursdays. Those will be via the Student Connect tab where you'll set up an appointment. I haven't used that tab in past semesters, so we'll see how it goes. I will also have those Zoom office hours during my in-person ones as well. So you can drop by via Zoom or in person on Monday and Wednesday. Also, if those times don't work out for you, please email me and we can try to find an alternative time to meet. So just to tell you a little bit about this class, the whole idea of this class is that you will learn how to conduct an experiment and use correct APA format. But there's a lot more to it than that. Before you can conduct an experiment, before you can write up an APA formatted paper, you have to learn all the basic components of the experiment. So you've probably learned about an independent and dependent variable in another class. We will start off kind of talking about some of those details. It's about the scientific method. And then we'll go into more detail than you've had in other classes. So we'll talk about research strategies, we'll talk about research designs, the statistics that you use for different strategies and designs. And there's a lot of new vocabulary, a lot of new terms that you'll be learning. And then we take all that information and we apply it. We apply it to designing an experiment. You're going to do that within a group. And then we're going to take that information and after you design your experiment, you're going to analyze that data and write it up in a final research paper. We are a lecture lab class, so it's important to keep in mind and make sure you allot enough time for that. When you get into the modules, you might look and think, oh my gosh, there's so much information in here. But each week, remember, we have a lecture portion and we have a lab portion. So those labs would be done in the class time that we would meet together. And if we were meeting in person, we would be together for over 6 hours each week. So at least that amount of time to do reading through the module pages, watching the videos, completing those assignments, and then of course there's some additional homework, study time, and whatnot on top of that. Now, APA formatting is probably new to a lot of you. If you know MLA formatting, that's great, but that APA formatting is very different. And why do we use a new formatting technique here? Because this is meant for psychology. As a psychology student, you need to learn APA formatting. If you go on in a 4-year college or into graduate school, you will be applying this APA formatting there as well. So while this manual is optional, I highly recommend getting it. Whether you get an online version, honestly, it's an investment to get the paper copy of it. You will use it if you go on to a 4-year college in psychology. You will definitely use it if you go on to graduate school in psychology. This class also requires group work, and I know that might seem strange in an online class, but experiments are very rarely conducted alone. Plus, I think it helps students to use each other to learn the material. So we will have some labs that are done as groups. Some of them in the beginning of the semester are really just to kind of get you to know people, and then you form a group that you work with the rest of the semester to pick a topic, then later on design the experiment, execute the experiment. And so it's important to know that you're going to do group work and have a positive attitude about it. This is the required text. Again, it is required that there's a lot of information that we covered, a lot of vocab. I try to use different examples than the textbook uses. So when you read the text, you get a different kind of point of view or presentation of the material. So reading the text as well as reading through the module pages and watching the videos is something that you should be doing to be successful in this class if you want to be an A student. And we will do a lot of reading in here. So when a lot of times students think of this as a math class, and so they hesitate to take it. I would say there's a lot more reading and writing in here than there really is math. We will do some statistics, but the computer will do the statistics for you. You just need to be able to analyze the statistics and interpret those statistics. So we will be reading peer-reviewed articles. For many of you, it might be new to you. We will go through how to read a peer-reviewed article, how to identify peer-reviewed articles, all of that. So again, other important skills to learn while we're learning the material, and then being able to apply that to the articles that you pick, the articles that you read, and so forth. So some of these articles will be provided. There'll be some assignments where you're going to go through some peer-reviewed articles and maybe pick out the variables or pick out the different research design or strategy that's going to be used. Others you're going to find on your own. So we actually will have a library module where we have an embedded librarian that provides you information on how to do searches through the library, how to find key terms, all that kind of stuff. Again, if you haven't done a lot of literature searches in the past, it is a skill. And so that's something that you will need to work on if you don't have much experience. And just as reading the peer-reviewed articles is a skill. So you need to be patient with yourself. Well, I can go through and I can digest the information relatively quickly. It will take you time. And I promise, as you go on, if you go on to psychology at a four-year college, or if you go on to graduate school, reading these articles does get easier with time. But it is a very important skill to have as a psychologist, whether you're a clinician or a researcher. These articles is where you learn from once you're out of school. And they can be handy in other areas. They can help you with, critically thinking about different topics, things you hear in the media or see on the news. So reading peer-reviewed articles is a skill and an important skill. So just to break down the class a little bit, it is all online. So we are an online class. Everything's in the Canvas classroom. Please navigate through the modules, starting at the top of the module, reading through all of the pages, taking notes, watching all of the videos and taking notes, making sure you're participating in assignments, discussions. Don't just skip something because, I can look at my grade and see that I have, this grade so far, and I can miss these assignments and it's all fine. You never know when you're going to need those extra points. And again, remember, we have a lecture portion and a lab portion. So the lecture portion is watching the videos, reading through the modules, participating in the participation assignments that are there to just kind of keep you in check and make sure that you're understanding what's in the modules. And then there are the labs. And so the labs take up just about as much time as the lecture material. So again, that's about 6 hours per week, a little bit more. And then there's the homework aspect. So this class is probably a little more homework heavy than some other classes because it involves reading peer-reviewed articles and writing. So it just depends on how efficient you are at doing that as to how much time that homework will take. We also will have 4 mini exams. They are open notes and open book, but you do need to understand the material. Most of the questions are not going to be simple regurgitation of definitions. You need to take the information you've learned and apply it and think critically about it. I will use Respondus lockdown browser, so you will have to stay into that page. You won't be able to navigate away and things like that. So just keep that in mind. We will have a practice Respondus quiz before the first exam. So the experiment is a semester-long group project. We will start in the 3rd week of school, picking our groups, picking our topics, and then the rest of it's broken down into smaller components, not just one big thing turned in at the end of the semester. So your group will design and execute a true experiment. So we will talk about different research strategies in here. Your group will use the experimental research strategy, while you will manipulate an independent variable and measure a dependent variable. Because we're online, we will do this in Google Forms. It will have a between subjects design. And again, if you don't know what that means, we'll learn about that in the first few weeks of the semester. And basically, this is kind of one of the things, this is what your final experiment is going to look like for me, is you're going to have a link to a random number generator and then a link to 3 different conditions, because all of your experiments will have one independent variable with 3 levels or 3 different conditions. So again, if you're not quite sure what that means yet, you don't understand it, you will by the time we get there, as long as you are applying yourself, reading through the module pages, watching the videos, and understanding the information provided to you. And if you don't understand, reach out. Come visit me in office hours. Go to the Student Success Center. I have a student there, Matthew, who he took this class a few years ago. He's now at UCI, and he comes back and he tutors at the Student Success Center. Highly recommend meeting with him if you're struggling, even if you're not struggling, just to get that extra help. Each individual will write their own literature review with their own peer review articles that they've read. The group, once that literature review is turned in, we will design an experiment, or you will design an experiment, and then you will write a methods section together for that experiment. We will conduct the experiments, and then you'll come back and you'll write a results section, a discussion section, an abstract on your own. So you'll come back and you'll turn that all into a final research paper at the end of the semester. Now, with all that writing and group work, academic integrity is extremely important. Cheating and plagiarism are serious offenses, not just in this class, but across the board at college. We will have a plagiarism tutorial where I talk a little bit about paraphrasing and effective paraphrasing as well. Just keep in mind, for this class especially, you should always be using your own words on assignments. You should not be reusing assignments from other classes. Well, the assignment from another class probably isn't, a term paper from another class is not going to be a literature review from this class. It's going to be very different. Very different way of writing, the material that I'm requiring, so on and so forth. If you aren't sure what paraphrasing is, we will talk about it in a few weeks in one of the modules, but reach out, look into it, come and see me. It is very important to understand what paraphrasing is, what summarizing the articles are. We won't be using quotes in here. So you're going to have to be able to read those peer-reviewed articles, understand them, and then put them into your own words. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, this is me and my husband many moons ago. We just celebrated our anniversary this past week. These are my children. This is Camille. She is 10, Tyler is 12, and Carrie is 16. And this picture says a lot about their personalities. I got my bachelor's in psychology at San Diego State. At the time when I was doing my bachelor's, I was doing developmental psych research. Highly recommend getting involved in research as an undergraduate. If you want to go on to graduate school especially, it will help with those applications, make you stand out. Any type of research involvement, community work, all of that goes a long ways. When I was doing my bachelor's, I started out thinking I wanted to be a clinician, decided I wanted to go more in research, but I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. So I decided to stay and get my master's in psychology at San Diego State, where I did physiological psych research, fell in love with it. From there, I went and did a PhD in neuroscience at USC. My area was aging and plasticity in the brain. And from there, I went really far away from psychology, and I ended up doing a postdoc at USC. Wanted to stay local. The idea was to take the techniques they were doing in this biochemistry lab and apply it to the brain, because they weren't doing brain research. It didn't work too well because of the brain's a fatty tissue, but I learned a lot. I got several publications out of it. I had Carrie, my eldest, when I was there, and when she was about 1.5 years, funding was running out. I wasn't really where I wanted to be anymore. So I wanted something that, a little bit more family friendly for a while. So I ended up being an adjunct professor, which is a part-time professor. And I was mainly taught at Cerritos College. I taught there for 12 years. I taught an occasional class at Long Beach City, Golden West, and here at Orange Coast College. And then about 4 years ago, I applied for a full-time position. So I'm now going into my 4th year as a tenure track professor here at Orange Coast College. I love it here. This is definitely, where I want to be. So I look forward to getting to know you throughout the semester.